400 student school, and to give you an idea, we have 50 discussed earlier. So in my specific club, we have approximately 50 students, 13 of those with intellectual disability, age ranging from 14 years of age to 21. We do include our transition program students in our model. We meet every day for 30 minutes during first and fourth quarter, and then weekly during second and third quarter due to a conflict that I have as the head forensics coach. So I need to meet with my forensics team during that time. To give you an overview of our week, on Mondays, the mentor group, which consists of veteran students who are juniors and seniors, they meet on the stage. We meet in the gym. They meet on the stage, and they talk about school-wide activities, volunteer opportunities. They plan our family vacations, which I'll get to in just a minute. And they plan really every event that we do. They help me execute it. So they meet. At the same time, we're split into 5 different groups. So the groups are heterogeneous for grade and ability, and these groups are the groups for the entire quarter. So each week, a different group teaches the group a specific skill of their choice. So for example, this week, Group 1 is teaching, and they're teaching the benefits and I guess disadvantages of social media in high school. So they're teaching appropriate social media use, and they're teaching just how to use social media, and that can look like a lot of different, or that can look very different for all students. So on those Mondays, that specific group meets to plan their week. Then they teach Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And then on Friday, we actually invite a different club to come in every Friday and meet with us to do like a sports game or a teamwork activity. And the reason for that is so that when our students with intellectual disability show interest in those clubs, such as National Honor Society or Interact Club or Student Council, or the football team comes in, chess club, knitting and crocheting club, when those clubs come in, my students with intellectual disability can get to know the other students in those clubs, and it makes the transition to make those clubs more unified easier for everybody involved. So that is what our week looks like. Then as far as our club events and activities, we go to one sporting event per month. So we do a Fans in the Stands once per month, where we make signs, we wear shirts, we do the jerseys, and it's actually become more than once a month, except I don't actually go to them more than once a month, so it's really only an official Fans in the Stands once a month. But because of our inclusive environment and because this group has really sustained on its own, the students will invite other students with intellectual disability to come with them to other sporting events. So that has branched out in a really magical way. And then as far as our group, we family trip once per month, and that's like a big trip. So for example, this Sunday, we are going to the pumpkin patch for the afternoon, but we've had a kickoff party in September. We are going to be doing the leadership conference in November for Special Olympics, where we'll do rock and jump. We do a holiday party, we do fit nights, mini golf, zoo, we go to the zoo. We did adaptive horseback riding, a ropes course. We've spent time at their local pool, and then we do like outdoor games and grilling in the summer. So those are incredible turnouts. This I have in the group attending. So that attendance rate I'm very proud of and very excited for. Then every other Wednesday we do a Welcome Wednesday, where the group will welcome every member and every staff member and student into the building with a hug, a hello, a high five, a word of encouragement. Sometimes they hand out quotations on a magnet. Sometimes they hand out dum-dum suckers. Sometimes they hand out bracelets. Sometimes they don't hand out anything besides just joy and cheer. And that has proven to be really great to boost the morale. What has happened since we began at the beginning of the year is the pep band members sometimes join us, and sometimes the cheerleading and dance squad join us with their POMs as well and lead cheers to come in at the beginning of the school. It's been really great, and a lot of teachers have commented that it's a really nice thing to have to start off anyone's day. We also do a lunch bunch where we increase socialization skills for our athletes with intellectual disability, and that meets in a separate room, in my room actually. And each group, like I said, we have 5 groups, so each week a different group meets for lunch bunch. And in that time they have a more intimate setting to practice socialization skills, proper eating etiquette, and just appropriate conversations to have as high schoolers. So that's a little bit more methodical. I bring up conversation starters for peers, and I also provide prompting for my students with intellectual disability. But that's proved to be very successful because now my students who, even though we had a great program last year, still sat alone in the cafeteria. Now no one sits alone in the cafeteria, and that includes students without disabilities who may not have a lot of friends or who may be an outcast. My students have taken upon themselves to adopt the mission that no one eats alone. So that has been a significant change here at CHS as well. And then finally, we do an end-of-the-year banquet. Last year was the first year that we did it. We invited all parents. With a 55-member group, everybody wanted to invite everybody and their grandma, which was great. We were very inclusive. And we had a turnout of 207 people at the banquet, and where some athletes shared their stories, some peers, some parents. And we had a slideshow of the year, and we did a teamwork activity at the end. So it proved to be wonderful, and we also gave out awards. My next steps with that would be to start a scholarship foundation for students who are going into special education in college. And so my efforts with fundraising have begun now in hopes of getting that in the works for at least next year, if not this year. As far as our connection with the Special Olympics program, I am working collaboratively with our local agency manager. She and I are working on events that we can do collaboratively, such as volunteering at their bowling tournament at the end of the month. During their basketball season, we're going to scrimmage them so that they can prepare for their tournaments. I'm going to have a couple peers sign up to golf with the Special Olympics athletes this year, so they don't have to golf with their family members and or other adult volunteers. We do the polar plunge, and then this year we're going to do 2 parties with the local chapter. And my hope in doing this is that my students without disabilities will volunteer to become volunteers or workers of any events that happen with the traditional area teams, and hopefully we can continue to make Special Olympics a more inclusive program as well. And I hope that they continue that when they go on to colleges of their choices. Finally, it's just some additional info of our club. We won the Project Unify Inclusion Award when it was Project Unify in 2015. This year is the first year that we're going to implement unified PE at our school. So it's not an adaptive PE course. It's actually a unified course where everyone in the class is expected to benefit physically, emotionally, mentally, and so we're going to pilot that starting second quarter. So I will let you know how it all goes, but we're very excited to do so. We are actually going to be competing in a bowling tournament against other Special Olympic teams and other unified physical education courses around the state in December. This year we have the opportunity to help plan the Youth Leadership Summit to hopefully get a youth activation committee started and sustained in Wisconsin in November. And then I guess some proud moments for me is that this number of students who want to become a special ed teacher as a result of the efforts of this group has been both astonishing and humbling. And to say when I began working here in 2010, I drove through the town and I thought there's no way that we can make a change in this rural community. I felt almost defeated, and then I realized that I wasn't going to give up there, and I found leaders, I found students who I thought would make a change positively, and I planted the seeds of leadership and inclusion and acceptance, and I now have a student-led group, and it's incredibly sustainable. The community is involved, parents are involved. And I get to kind of sit back and watch this all grow, and it's been absolutely amazing. And as a teacher, I really benefit from the efforts of this group because in the classroom, inclusive education and co-teaching has been that much easier as a result of the efforts that this group has done to really make this place a better place for everybody. And so from now, we are actually going to move from a disability advocacy group to just an advocacy group for all learners, all people of all abilities, and to continue to make everyone feel more welcome at CHS. So that is what I have.
Great, thank you so much. We will have questions at the end, so as you have questions, please feel free to type them in and know that we will address them at the end once we also finish the College Club section. Now we will jump into our North Carolina representatives. We have Caitlin, who is the Youth Initiatives Director at Special Olympics North Carolina, and then we have Logan, who is the president of the Duke University Special Olympics College Club. And just to clarify some terminology, we used to call it SO College. Now we are referring to it as Special Olympics College Clubs or College Clubs when we're talking about it with internal audiences. So just know that everything you're seeing is, the old terminology is SO College, and now it is Special Olympics College Clubs. So I will pass it along to Caitlin. Again, feel free to continue to type in your questions, and we will answer them at the end.
Great. Hello, everyone. As Haley said, I'm the Youth Initiatives Director for Special Olympics North Carolina, and I have the great privilege of heading up our school-based efforts, everything from preschool and elementary all the way through college. Over these past few years, we've really started to see the interest level in college clubs really begin to grow statewide, and we began to recognize that there was a vast amount of untapped potential on these campuses. There's truly an enormous amount of opportunities for local Special Olympics programs and athletes that result from working with college campuses, and we're finally starting to really see what all those opportunities can be. And on the completely flip side, college students are always looking for leadership opportunities and ways that they can get involved with sports on campuses, and they're always just looking for those professional experiences as well. And all of that can truly be achieved by working with Special Olympics, and that's really what we started to uncover and figure out over these past couple years. So we kind of saw this big picture of what can be achieved by working with our local universities, and have really started to make it a priority over these past few years to really just hone in and focus on our colleges and on our universities. And we're really pleased with the response and receptiveness that we've received this far. So as a snapshot of kind of where we're at right now, we currently have 13 active college clubs all across the state of North Carolina, and that's on colleges both really small and really, really big. On the list of 13, we have small schools like Methodist University and Campbell University, but then we also have some of our largest universities in the state represented. We have ones like NC State University, UNC Chapel Hill, UNC Charlotte, and Duke, which are names that I'm sure you've all heard, so that we have our biggest schools as well. Each of these schools in their club has an average of about 150 participants just in their college club, which is huge, and that number is the same for even our smallest schools. So the interest level is definitely there on the college campuses. We have the support from the students, and we've really been able to do quite a bit with that. For a unified club to get started on campus, we require them on the Special Olympics North Carolina side of things to follow the exact same standards and criteria that we put in place for all of our Unified Champion schools. So they're doing the same application, the same monthly report, the same midterm and final report as all of our other Unified Champion schools across the state, which makes it quite easier on our part so we don't have separate criteria outlined for colleges or universities. So they do fall under our umbrella of Unified Champion schools, and they do just fit in all that criteria that we put in place. With these 13 active college clubs that we have right now, we've seen a ton of growth over this past year, and I did just want to highlight a few of the kind of most notable items that we've been able to pull out of this. So 10 of our college clubs right now are providing local program volunteers to their local Special Olympics program. So whether it's being coaches for a sport, whether they're day of volunteers, they're just being administrative volunteers in the office, whatever it might be, they've really worked on stepping away from being just a silo club on their campus to really begin working with their local Special Olympics program, which has been huge and really a great step for us to move forward. Schools are currently offering a unified sport through the intramural department on campus, which is a huge thing for us, and so I'm going to circle back to this one in a bit, but that number is 9, which is great. Additionally, 2 of the schools are currently hosting fundraisers for their local Special Olympics program and really just trying to raise funds for their local Special Olympics athletes. And then all 13 of our college clubs they host Spread the Word to End the Word campaigns throughout the year, which is awesome. So as you can see, our huge success has really been from taking the existing college clubs that were there and existing on these campuses and pushing them to do more. Pushing them from just doing a Spread the Word to End the Word campaign and meeting for club meetings to really bridging the gap between them and their local program, or pushing them more towards unified sports and in their intramurals. So we've really seen it take off over these past couple years. And with a little guidance, these students can do so much on the college campuses. You know, the college campuses, you find students with the most, that are the most driven, excited, enthusiastic, and committed people that you can find. And so being able to plug them in and have them help support your initiatives or your overall goals has been huge for us. Here in North Carolina, our unified sports efforts are being driven by our universities, which is thanks to the college clubs that we have on these campuses, and has been a great thing for us over these past couple years. Over the past 2 years or so, starting unified sports through the intramural department has really become a priority for us. And now it's at the point that it's happening naturally and truly without our support in the schools, because they already have these college clubs that are driving it, which is awesome. Our college clubs are the ones that are setting up meetings with the intramural department, setting up meetings with the rec department. They're the ones that are having these initial conversations to get it started. They're also the ones that are recruiting the partners to play on the teams, and they're the ones that are working directly with the recreation staff to ensure that the practices go smoothly and that any issues are communicated back to our state office. So it's something that is truly completely ran by our SO College Club and our unified, our college club students and our college clubs on campuses. So it's something that we've really kind of been able to take a step back from and really let them just lead the effort. Logan from the College Club at Duke will be presenting in a little bit, and I don't want to steal her thunder too much, but Duke is definitely a prime example of everything being completely student-driven. She and her club have really taken everything on, from the initial communication to the student recruitment, and just the collaboration in general with the university and with the students has just been completely driven by her. So it's definitely a prime example of how this can work really well on a college campus. So having these college clubs lead these efforts is undoubtedly a huge benefit to SONC, but there are so many other benefits that stem from college clubs and that reach far beyond just benefiting our state office. One example that fits perfectly with this is the Special Olympics North Carolina local program coordinator for Durham County is always saying how her athletes love basketball. They would play basketball every single day if they could, she says, but she doesn't really have the capacity to offer basketball as much as her athletes would really enjoy to do it. Logan on Duke's campus and with the college club took that thought and took that idea and decided that starting a unified basketball league through the intramural would be a great fit for it. It would not only provide all the students at Duke to have an opportunity to play unified and to play unified through the intramurals, but it would provide an opportunity for all of those athletes in Durham County who are looking to play basketball but can't do it as often as they want to be able to have another opportunity to compete. So it's truly a great thing with working with the local program, figuring out what their need was, and then working with that college club that we have at Duke to figure out what we can do. And then with the university support that the college club has gotten on Duke's campus, there are so many other benefits that are stemming from that already. They're offering facilities, they're offering refs, they're offering just a large variety of things that we would never have found out that we can offer to our local program if we wouldn't have gotten in with the intramural department and we wouldn't have been able to, and we wouldn't have started that initial conversation with them. So it's definitely Duke is a prime example of kind of what all these benefits are, and the benefits are truly across the board. But one thing that I can't speak too highly to or too adequately to is the benefit that the students have on the campus as well. The Duke students, we've seen huge benefits from them being involved with these intramurals, and just all across the board, from the leadership to just the opportunities. So I'm going to hand it over to Logan Byer. She's the Special Olympics College Club president at Duke and an SONC volunteer extraordinaire, but she can share her insight and knowledge on just starting the clubs on the college campuses and really what that process has been, as well as all the benefits. So I'm going to hand it over to you, Logan.
Hi, everyone. So like Caitlin said, I am the president of the Special Olympics College Club on Duke's campus. And so I was actually not around when this club was started, which I view as a really exciting fact because it means you're now a club with longevity on campus that's going to be here for a long time. But I reached out to the student who did start it, and she told me that it all started with one motivated student with an idea. And I think that's a really powerful statement because it speaks to one person can have a ripple effect if they get connected to Special Olympics and are really dedicated to this cause. And so she told me that the first steps to really getting this started on Duke's campus, number one was to just connect and to coordinate with the state and the local programs. So she reached out to Special Olympics North Carolina, she reached out to Durham County, and she asked first what the need was, and second, what has been successful in the past so that Duke could model its college club program off of other clubs that were also trying to accomplish the same mission. And after she got these institutional supports, she then looked to her peers, and she was trying to find a group of students who'd be willing to work on this with her. And she was able to assemble a really passionate group of people who would take responsibility for launching the club. And so with these peers and with the support of Special Olympics, she started to navigate through the school-specific process for creating a new club. And every college campus has one of these, and it just depends on where you are. But at the end of the process, you have an officially chartered club that has access to Duke University's resources, which has been really powerful. And so once the club was started, it was about having initial events like a field day on campus and getting students involved in local practices so that they could start to build those relationships with the athletes and really be committed to this club going forward. So after the club was created, the next step was to really structure it in the way that would be most effective. And as I already said, you can capitalize on advisors, on funding opportunities, and on volunteer recruitment through Duke University, which is very helpful. But there's also the question of how we organize our leadership within the club to make sure we can be effective and efficient. And so as Caitlin mentioned, this has been really student-led. We try to make everything student-led and student-driven so that we can be receptive to our campus. So the way that we do that is we have elected student officers. There's a president, a vice president, a treasurer, and so on. And that creates the Special Olympics College Club exec team. And so we coordinate with our student volunteers and with the Durham County and state Special Olympics chapters to try to make sure we're doing the best we can for athletes and to stay in line with state goals. So it's not directly run by the Special Olympics, but we communicate with them enough that their goals are put into action on Duke's campus. So we created the club and we structured the club, but the next step, which is really important, is keeping the club going. And so this maintaining the club was a really big issue this year, as this is the first year that no one who started the club remained on campus. The last person graduated last spring. And so we've been in this transition process. And I'm really excited to share the strategies that we've come up with to make sure from here on out it will be a really smooth process to turn over leadership, because we are only here for 4 years each. So we want to make sure that even with that constant turnover, the student-led initiative can still function. And so the first thing I recommend really strongly is having staggered grade co-presidents. And what I mean by that is having one president who is a senior and one president who is a junior. And that way the senior comes in already kind of knowing how the system works, having all the contact information and the connections to the local athletes. And throughout the course of the year, they mentor the junior so that when it comes time for them to leave, the junior becomes the senior and is able to step up, run the club really efficiently the next year, and they mentor someone else to take their place when it's their turn to graduate. I also think it's really useful to create a transition to-do list at the end of the year. So there are a lot of administrative tasks that happen over the summer or first thing when you get back on campus, and it's easy to miss those. And that would be a big hit to the club in terms of recruitment of freshmen and getting the funding that we need. So just creating a quick outline of the steps that need to be taken and their deadlines can be really helpful to an incoming president to make sure they are ready to take on the year. And the last tip we've realized, and certainly not the least important one, is to make sure the listserv and the roster for the club are transferable. So the original one created for Duke was actually under only one student's name. And when that student graduated, we've lost access to all of the email addresses of the students who've been involved. So now we're much more savvy. We have a Google Groups email, is a really useful platform. And that email can be transferred from one student to the next so that whoever is in charge has access to everyone who's ever registered or been interested in an event and can easily communicate with everyone at the same time. So we've talked about, starting the club, structuring the club, and getting everything to maintain itself and to be really self-sufficient. So that makes us active on Duke's campus. But what does it mean if we're an active club? What are we doing? And so I think this can vary greatly across college campuses depending on the interests of the student body and the needs of the local Special Olympics club. But I think what we've found to be really successful on Duke's campus is to focus on advocacy, on getting students into unified sports, and then on being as supportive as possible for the local Special Olympics in Durham. So for us, advocacy means focusing on the Spread the Word to End the Word campaign every March. And we found it really useful to collaborate with other student groups on campus who might have a similar mission or a similar desire to promote inclusive language. And we work with them to expand our outreach and make sure as many students get involved as possible. And when these students get involved, the first thing we have them do is to sign the pledge that says, I won't say the R word, and when someone around me says it, I'll speak up and discuss why it's problematic. We've also hosted discussion panels in the past with local athletes so they can talk about why words matter to them. And then we've connected our advocacy campaign with some of our other events on campus, particularly Unified Basketball, which happens at the same time. And through that, we've really expanded the outreach. So a lot of students hear about why this is important. And that leads nicely into unified. And I think unified sports, and particularly unified basketball, is Duke's main focus when it comes to Special Olympics. Duke is a basketball school. It gets students motivated, and because Durham is around Duke, all of the athletes love basketball. Like Caitlin said, they would play all day, every day if they were given the chance. There's just always a love of basketball here. And so we've converted that into a really successful unified initiative, which is mainly in the past been concentrated in a unified game versus UNC. So we call this the Battle of the Blues. It's a televised competition aimed at raising awareness of Special Olympics and why it matters, increasing student involvement, and also doing some fundraising. That's going to be a new effort this year, but we're hoping to have a competition versus UNC to see who can raise the most funds to support their local Special Olympics chapter. And as Caitlin mentioned, we're super excited that intramural basketball is going to start on Duke's campus. Unified intramural basketball is an amazing opportunity to make not only Duke more inclusive, but to provide some of that basketball that our athletes have been craving. I think it will really expand our impact because most Special Olympics practices occur off campus and require a car, and now there's no excuse for students not to just walk to the gym 5 minutes from their dorm and jump into the game. So we're super excited about the enthusiasm that's already building on our campus around this Unified Basketball League, and we're hoping to expand next fall to have Unified Flag Football or Unified Kickball, something like that, to really keep the momentum going and help make unified sports a really powerful force on Duke's campus. And then last but not least, we work very, very hard to stay connected to the Durham County Special Olympics happening all around us and to be as supportive as possible for these athletes. Because, the athletes are what this is all about. And so the easiest way to connect with them is to just go to the practices and the events that they're already going to be attending. So one way that we do this is we send students to practices in both the fall and the winter seasons. So right now we have students at flag football, at soccer, at tennis, and when the winter sports start, we'll have people out at basketball practices, at swimming, and at cheerleading. And that's a way for students to have a sustained commitment and to really get to know these athletes well. And I think it's particularly gratifying for freshmen who come. They're also looking for friendships and connections in this new place. And they start attending sports practices, and they are immediately a part of this family, the Special Olympics community. We also provide volunteers for one-day events. So, for example, this weekend there's a Special Olympics soccer tournament. We're going to have Duke students out there to help referee and to help pass out food. And we've also organized events to scrimmage local teams. So the flag football team in particular is always looking for someone to challenge at the end of the week. And part of this local support and this focus on it is being really open to the innovation that arises when students have the chance to meet athletes, to become their friends, and to identify what else can be done. And so this has led to some really cool things on Duke's campus. We had a toy drive for Christmas last year. We've had a photography initiative. Even this fall, we have a new health and wellness program that is trying to connect Duke pre-med students with the athletes on the soccer team to work on nutrition and fitness. And so it's those unique ideas and connections that students are making on their own and that we're just kind of sitting back and trying to help facilitate that I think make the local connections really powerful. And those relationships, that's what's really going to keep Special Olympics up and running and doing so many amazing things on Duke's campus and on all college campuses. Because when students care and they feel connected, that passion will keep cycling things forward. And so I just wanted to end with this one picture. This was actually taken last week. We had a scrimmage with the flag football team, and this is what it's all about for me. It's about having Duke students out there and having the athletes all together, having just a great time and being part of this community that makes all of our lives better.
Great, thank you all so much. Just leading off of Caitlin and Logan's fantastic examples of what is happening across North Carolina and specifically Duke University, I just wanted to highlight two new resources that we have at the college level. The first is an onboarding guide, which this guide goes specifically into how to onboard everything that Logan talked about, of what to do on campus to get students involved, how to officially register as a student organization, how to hold elections, everything that you need to know to get up and going on campus. So this will be included in the next newsletter. So you all will be able to have it, share it out with your college students. This is different than any of the starter guides that we have had in the past. As I said, the main focus is really a step-by-step guide of how to get up and running on campus. So that's the first resource that we have. And then the second resource we have is a events guide. The events guide will go into specifically how students can run and plan different events on campus. Logan had mentioned quite a few different events that they host at Duke University. So this not only provides ideas and examples for the students, but it also kind of does a run-through of what they need to do to host different events. As you can see in front of you, it has the time it takes to plan an event. So if students only have 1 to 3 weeks to plan, they can base the events off of that. Again, all of this will be included in the next newsletter. Also, at the end of the webinar, there will be contact information. My contact information will be on there. Feel free, if you need it today, feel free to shoot me an email and I will send you these resources. So with that, I just wanted to provide again, our contact information. Feel free to reach out to us if you have specific questions, or we will now take the opportunity to answer questions during this session. So feel free to type it in the chat section, and we will have Sarah go through them. She will read them out, and we will have our wonderful panelists answer your questions. Great. The first question came in around the high school club time, and I believe it's for Julia. What kind of sporting events do you bring your club to? Are they school, Special Olympics, or professional? And Martha, if I didn't capture your question correctly, please send a follow-up. But Julia, I'll turn it over to you.
I go to both school and Special Olympics events. We are trying to get a University of Wisconsin Badger sporting event in the works, trying to see how we can get tickets. Obviously, football and basketball are pricey, so we're thinking maybe hockey. So that is in the works right now.
Great, thank you so much. The next question is again for high school clubs, but again, any panelists, please jump in. Do you have any transportation issues or issues with students leaving campus?
You mean during the school day, leaving campus?
Jamie, I'll let you follow up if you mean during the school day, but can we start maybe if you want to dive a little bit deeper into if you have any transportation issues or maybe how you approach transportation in general?
Sure. When I'm going to events, I always get a bus. And in my budget justification sheet for Special Olympics Wisconsin, I requested money for transportation. And then my school also agrees to match transportation. Because the club has been such a successful and great thing for our climate, our school has no problem putting money into the club, especially if it means something as little as transportation, or I guess as easy as transportation. So we go by bus to all of the events, even on the weekends. I think that that's a big advantage of working in a small town. I know the bus barn person well. I know our driver well. So no, we don't run into any issues.
I would like to comment on this one too. As a college campus, it is very difficult to arrange transportation, but that's something that we've been working on directly with student groups and student organizations that oversee these kinds of things on campus. And so the idea for next year is that the student group funding organization is going to start reimbursing students for Ubers. And Ubers, if you guys don't know, are an easy way to plug in a destination and someone with a verified background check can come pick you up and take you there and then transport you home. And so that's one way that we're able to get students out in the community even without Duke being able to provide buses every week.
Awesome,
and
thank you so much.
This is Don. I'll pitch in too, is that some of our other communities, you know, they're not as fortunate as Jalea with being able to get the bus. I mean, even if, you know, we've offered to help fund some of that, but some communities are able to just, their schools will just give them buses, others will not. And with the colleges, we've noticed too, the SO college that we have, or the Special Olympics College in Madison, none of those kids drive. You know, maybe one out of every 20, it seems like. And so for them to come to volunteer at our tournaments, to even the unified sports events that we've done, we've had to, out of our program office, help with transportation for either by getting buses or using staff vans to help cart people around. So it's definitely an issue for us.
Good day. Great. So our next question is, who do I email for the links to Special Olympics College Club guides? That will be me. This is Haley Bernacki. My email should be back on the screen. Yes, my email is on the screen. Shoot me an email and I will send them over right away. As I said, they will also be included in next week's Unified Champion Schools newsletter. So you will get them there, and we will also find additional ways to make sure they're distributed out through the SONA memo and other ways. Are they going to be posted on resources? They will be posted on resources. There will be a specific college page for resources upcoming. So keep an eye out, but they will be on resources shortly. Yes, they will be there shortly. Great. Just look out for the newsletter first. Yes. Okay, great. Thank you. The next question for our panelists: do any states work with their local Best Buddies program to provide a club experience via that route?
I know that we've tried in Wisconsin. I've been very active in working with the group, like for one particular college for University of Wisconsin-Madison, and it's been very hard to get crossover. Even though the athletes attend the events of both, I have tried to have events, for both groups, and it's been very difficult. I've talked to both the president of both chapters for Best Buddies and for Special Olympics College, and they're both supportive, but then when it gets down to actually coming to each other's events, it just doesn't happen. So I'm still trying to work on that one, figure out what's going on.
And this is Caitlin Smith with North Carolina. I think, we've had success with some of our universities by just tapping to use them for athletes and partners for unified sports, or by inviting them to the different activities that are happening on campus for the college club. We have a few universities that do work hand in hand with their Best Buddy chapter, and they just work together on maybe the Spread the Word to End the Word campaign or a few activities here and there. But in general, they're a great group to just loop in and hopefully engage in some capacity, even if it is them just joining the unified team on campus or whatever it might be. Obviously, it's already a great group of athletes and partners that are dedicated and really are want to promote this cause in some form. So they have tried to kind of loop them in with our college clubs across the state. We don't really have much of a formal relationship between the two, but we have seen it work when they are trying to work together.
I believe similar to North Carolina, Special Olympics Massachusetts, Best Buddies, again, no formal agreement, but I have spoken to Patty, and she's echoed the same sentiment where they've had success at the high school level with uniting their unified clubs in the Best Buddies program that might already exist within that high school. So that's another contact for you, Nick, for this route. So for those remaining on the call, do you have any other questions for our panelists? We have Dawn, Caitlin, and then Julia and Logan, respectively, on the line for a few more minutes. So please feel free to take some time and send your questions in via the question box. If something comes up after this, the contact information for the program staff and Haley is on your screen right now, so please feel free to shoot an email that way as well. We'll give it 2 more minutes, and if there's no other questions, again, feel free to always email us. We will have a copy of this webinar on the next newsletter that will go out next week. And again, I want to reiterate that we will continue this conversation at the Unified Champion Schools Conference in February in South Carolina. Make sure everybody marks your calendars. But we will have a session on unified clubs and summits. And this will be an opportunity for us to continue to dive into this topic and continue to evaluate what's working, what's not working, and learn some best practices from other states beyond the ones that we have heard from today. So we'll give you a little bit more time to type in your question. But again, we appreciate our panelists and the time that they have taken to join us today. Great. Well, while we wrap everything up, I want to allow everyone the last few minutes in case you're typing in your questions. I'm going to review the upcoming technical assistance sessions that are scheduled on everyone's calendar. And so we're going to have another office hours. This is going to be held on Tuesday, November 1st. Just for those that did not join us last time, we're going to leave the full hour open and remain on the line in case any questions come up around grant administration. We'll be there. We definitely don't want you to feel like you require to hold the full hour. If you just need to pop in, that's totally acceptable. We will be sharing some information on the front end of this session, but you should treat this sort of as, you know, coming to us with questions as needed. If something comes up outside of office hours, please use the U.S. schools at specialolympics.org email. The following session is What Does Your YAC Look Like? That will be on Wednesday, November 7th from 3 to 4. Following that, we will have the Evaluation Data Toolkit presentation. That will be held on Wednesday, November 16th from 3 to 4 p.m. Eastern Time. I should clarify these are all Eastern times. And then at the end of November, on the 30th, we will be holding a Unified PE overview. This is going to be an introductory session because this will also continue to be a session that we'll revisit during the conference and after the conference as well. So mark your calendars, everybody. Okay, well, I just want to thank everybody for joining us this afternoon. I want to thank the panelists for presenting on the Creating a Unified Club. Thank you for sharing all of your information. And if you have any questions, please use the program staff contacts and Haley. We're happy to field any questions and get you connected on this topic. And we look forward to seeing you at our next technical assistance session. Have a good afternoon. Thanks, everyone. Have a great one. We will talk soon. Bye.